In the quiet suburbs of a sprawling city, Edward and Margaret Whitfield, a wealthy couple known for their kindness and generosity, were blessed with identical twin daughters, Charlotte and Evelyn. Their trusted maid, Clara, had been with the family for years. Unable to have children of her own, Clara adored the twins, lavishing them with affection as though they were her own. One summer, the Whitfields decided to take their young daughters on a camping trip to a secluded forest. It was meant to be a joyous escape from their busy lives. But on the second night, tragedy struck. Evelyn went missing from her crib. The family was devastated, believing an animal might have taken her. Rescue teams combed the woods for days, and news of the missing child dominated headlines, but Evelyn was never found. What no one suspected was that Clara, who seemed heartbroken alongside the family, had orchestrated the disappearance. With the help of her boyfriend and his cousin, she had kidnapped Evelyn, intending to raise her as her own daughter. The Whitfields, overwhelmed with grief, eventually returned home, mourning their lost child. Shortly thereafter, Clara quit her job, citing the emotional toll of the tragedy. Clara renamed Evelyn as Grace and raised her in a modest neighborhood. Despite her limited means, Clara poured her love into Grace, teaching her to work hard and find joy in simple pleasures. Together, they cleaned houses to make ends meet, forming a bond built on trust and affection. Grace grew up unaware of her true origins, believing Clara to be her devoted mother. Meanwhile, the Whitfields never gave up hope. Even as the years passed, Margaret would wander the forest on every camping trip, searching for traces of Evelyn. They raised Charlotte with all the privileges their wealth could offer, ensuring she received the finest education and opportunities. Yet the void left by Evelyn's absence lingered in their hearts. 2 decades later, the Whitfields, now in their 70s, faced another heartbreak. Charlotte, during a powerful hurricane in Florida, went missing after attempting to rescue a friend. The storm destroyed the bridge to the area, cutting off communication. Despite their desperate efforts to locate her, Charlotte was never found, leaving the Whitfields devastated once more. Unbeknownst to them, Grace, their long-lost daughter, was working as a maid at one of their luxury hotels. She had taken the job to support Clara, whose health had declined. Despite facing mistreatment from her manager, Grace's resilience and kindness shone through. Her dedication did not go unnoticed, but her manager, threatened by Grace's competence, sought to humiliate her. One evening, the Whitfields hosted a grand charity ball at the hotel. Grace was tasked with serving the wealthy guests. The manager and an accomplice schemed to sabotage her, ensuring she spilled food and mixed up orders. Humiliated and covered in food, Grace caught the attention of Edward and Margaret, who were stunned by her striking resemblance to Charlotte. "Edward," Margaret whispered, clutching his arm. "Do you see her? She's the spitting image of Charlotte." Edward blinked, struggling to catch his breath. "It can't be. But Margaret, she looks exactly like her." Margaret's eyes filled with tears. "We need to find out who she is." They approached Grace's manager the next day. "Excuse me," Edward said, his voice firm. "That young woman who was working last night, what's her name?" The manager, smirking, replied, "Oh, you mean Grace? She's just one of the maids. Had quite the mishap last night, didn't she? I can assure you it won't happen again." Margaret frowned. "We're not here to discuss that. We'd like to know more about her." The manager's expression faltered. "More about her? She's just a cleaner. I'm not sure why she'd be of any interest to you." Edward's gaze hardened. That's for us to decide. Tell us everything you know about her. Eventually, they learned Grace's background and were stunned to discover she was the daughter of their former maid, Clara. Margaret's hands trembled as she said, "Edward, this is too much to be a coincidence. We need to contact her." When the truth emerged, the Whitfields arranged a private meeting with Clara and Grace. Clara arrived, her face pale but resolute. Grace, confused and apprehensive, sat quietly beside her. "Clara," Margaret began, her voice shaking. We believe Grace is our daughter. Evelyn." Clara's eyes widened, and she stammered, I don't know what you mean. Grace is my daughter." Edward leaned forward. "We've done a DNA test. The results don't lie." "Clara, please tell us the truth." Clara broke down, sobbing. I couldn't have children. When Evelyn disappeared, I thought it was fate. I've loved her like my own. Please, don't take her away." Grace stared at Clara, tears streaming down her face. "Mom, is this true? Did you steal me?" Clara nodded, unable to speak. Margaret reached for Grace's hand. "You've been loved, and we don't want to take that away. But you are our daughter, and we've missed you every single day." Grace, overwhelmed, whispered, "I don't know what to say. My whole life has been a lie. But Clara, she's been a good mother to me." Edward spoke gently. "We understand, Grace. We only want to get to know you and make up for lost time." After much soul-searching, Grace forgave Clara and began building a relationship with the Whitfields. They brought her into the family business, naming her vice president of the hotel chain. At her first meeting as an executive, Grace addressed the staff, including her former manager. "I know what it's like to be treated unfairly," she said, her voice steady. "That stops here. We're all part of this team, and everyone deserves respect." The former manager, now humbled, avoided her gaze. Grace's leadership transformed the hotel, and her story inspired the community. Though she embraced her new family, Grace continued to visit Clara, cherishing the woman who had raised her. Together, they healed from the scars of the past, finding peace in the present.